know. Tantralokah chapter 5. Now begins the process by means of anava for those who are desirous to attain the paradhama. The state of anuttara is the ever-transcendental state. After the conditioning, the thought constructs both enjoyment and salvation take place in certainty about the desirous and non-competitive object. The ideation thought construct of an experiment gets to you, tame it automatically by his own free will. There is no need of divergent means in this, and some aspirants need divergent means for the deconditioning of ideation relatively. First way process between these two has been said. So ideation is the nature of mind, yet is its objective of free will of atom having the certain essential nature. There are several kinds of determination, so there are several means for this nishchaya. These diverse means are due to the word atom. The experiment perceives their exact reality even in the non-real object like intellect, vital force and body. Because vital force are two not different from luminous pure consciousness, by dint of the free will of the parasamvit. Inert and consciousness bodies are having diversified properties. In the Shri Bhairava and Adinatha told to deity Parvati, an individual soul is actually the power of Shiva. That power is omnipresent. That power is fixed in the attribute of essential nature, imagined by knowledge. One knows her true and pure consciousness by the imagination of her free ecstasy. The yogin becomes unique by giving up the inner portion. In other words, she, power, contemplates over her pure consciousness apart from the mirror, like she looks her reflection in the mirror by her free vision. The consciousness is considered as a different from vital force, forcefully. So mutually they are different intellect, yet are united with the truth. It unites with the world for it, pure or supreme consciousness is stainless, because a gleaming image has no conflict with its image difference. The entire world remains within the supreme consciousness as a truth, otherwise why to transmit by what and from where? In the intellect, vital force or body? There exists no thought construct in this ideationless. And without that ideation, the visible matter will also be like invisible, for determination arises out of ideation. The grandeur of law descends in the experienced automatically, who is having the form of intellect, vital force and body, but there exists no chance of ideation in the experienced having no form. Intellect has the potentiality to concentrate, and the vital force has the power to utter in that. From prana, vital force to jnana, these five coverings are utterance. First among these is called pranana, and other four utterance are known by their names: prana, udana, samana, apana, and jnana. There is a definite order. The state of body rest in the form of matter consists of subject of sense and vital force. In the body, he who is in form of concentration is called anuttara. He is ever meditative. The light which is existing in the heart as a liberated consciousness is the form of all being principle as stated in Trishira Bhairava. The scholar sees this light which seems as a form of banana cavity, which rests within the within and without, and which exists as a flower in the heart. Let the yogina full of concentration meditate as if it is collision of sun, fire and soma. And that the fire in the form of Bhairava aggravates with the flames in the great pond of heart by dint of contemplation. This should be the task of yogina, that he must contemplate over the flame, which is the flame of all-powerful, intense Bhairava in the unity of three experience and to be experienced. These are the same three voids of the power of fire, sun and soma. These are the ever-rising para, para, and apara powers. In that they are of the three kinds by the difference of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Its fourth form is the impeccable and unimaginary. Thus these 12 deities are situated as the image of sun. Each fire spark reflects in the form of sun, soma, and its peace. This Anuttara chakra reaches to its subject through the ways of space of eyes. In the beginning, through the so-called 12 Karaneshwari chakra rays, soma, sun, and fire reflects in the experience and to be experienced as a basis of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Thus, as the subject of what one should contemplate over Nad Atma by this chakra which reaches through the way of ear. With this order, where the chakra reaches, creates omniscience, there like a lord. Hence, the entire group of Adhvanas goes absorbs in the Bhairava Maha chakra, surrounded by supreme consciousness. After that, one should contemplate over this chakra too, which revolves speedily with free will after the decay of world in the form of conditioning. After that, one should contemplate over the chakra as it going at rest after the dissolution of that combustible. And then one should meditate on peace and then sama after diffusing its conditioning. Shama is a permanent state of tranquility. By this concentration, entire world absorbs in chakra. The chakra will absorbs in the supreme consciousness. After that, the meaning of the supreme consciousness is dissolved, reflects in the same form. By the nature of the power Chit, creation happens again, for Chit Maheshwari is able to perform anything. By dint of the nature of Chit power take place again creation, for this Chit Maheshwari. Thus he is aspirant by dissolving the world in his supreme consciousness in every moment, and again by creating this, becomes the eternal Bhairava-hood. Thus the yogina must contemplate over Trishula trident, that Chakshua, Pamchashua, respectively, and over the chakra of 50 Shuas. One pointed yogina must contemplate over the chakra of 64 or 1000 Shua, or infinite Shuas. One cannot determine the powers of Maheshwara, who is blissful supreme consciousness, Lord of Samvit and great. Maheshwara is all-powerful, and his powers are this entire universe. Is it said by the Sri Kanha in Mangala Shastra? Pleasing on me, Shri Shambhunatha demonstrated the concentration of this first upaya, and Shri Sumatimatha preached him. One should preserve practice as a concentration too by this process that which attain Anuttarapaya Thura without any Krama order. We are explaining the development of Anuttara in the form of its upaya means, of which is said as pranana of prana. First of all, the yogina should contemplate over the Nirananda by focusing on Pramatra Rupa Nijnanda, only existing in the heart after concentrating on God. After that, he, the yogina, should contemplate over Parananda, in what to be experienced on the emergence of vital force. There he should stay in Parananda, that which is glorified by moon of Apana and performed by Apana, the accomplished form of infinite experience part. After that, let him be full of Brahmananda, by attaining the acquired space and by coming out completely with the collision of living experience object. Then the prepared yogina in the state of assimilation of knowledge experience group must be contemplated on Mahananda by resting himself in the fire of Udana. By attaining this tranquility, he stops in this great flame of light. That tranquility is devoid of deceit and vyana, and having the essential nature of great expansion. That is a state of supreme bliss, remains but is different from in it. Whereas there is no difference, that which is living everywhere is a form of unstopped consciousness, is a full of absolute nectar, and whereas there is no mutual ship of contemplation, is a Jagannatha, as we are told by Shri Shambhu. One should take rest there by the yoga of heart utterance. That which is a right of restfulness there is a state of Anuttara mind. This state is a period out of utterance of six vital force, prana, so this is similar to the nature of heart, of its same state, Krama. Now we tell this in detail. The yogina should take refuge in the vital force, which equates here with a form consisting of a square and stick, as a result of the use of prana. As a perpendicular stick, symbolic is that is a base of nectar. After that, by transcending the Italian place of confluence of three nadis, yogina should enter into the equal-mindedness, equanimity of the power, will, knowledge and action. Again, the yogina should take refuge in the sacred tradition of developed devoid of contraction, states of existing powers from eyebrows to bindu and naganta. The element which throbs in Matsyudara state of vertical space is a beautiful emanation, Visarga. The yogina should take rest there. As a female ass or donkey-like mare feels great pleasure in her heart by entering into the Hivagina, which is the place of joy, full of contraction and expansion, so the yogin should attain the coupling state of Bhairava, which is full of constant withdrawal from manifestation and creation, in climax of contraction and expansion. The yogin rests in the absolute heart, Hridi after completion of the every stage, where the great roots Shiva, lens or trident of Shiva and Visarga emanation are unified. He, the yogin, stays there which complete existing after assimilating the world. One should understand this as the selfhood, the self-rest of light. The selfhood lives as a state of first joyful vimarsha, in Anuttara vimarsha, of awareness of Paramashiva that nothing is higher by devoiding of pre-activities. Thus he reflects the Tattva, the pure being by the son of Velkava, engaged in the imagining principle, then he is fulfilled it and then take rest. After that, which is full of 16 gleaming kava, and retarded by the capture of emanation, that some Jivani powers, the nectar enters the fire of knowledge and action, becomes the purifier of Samvid Devi, deity of supreme consciousness, in the form of that precious nectar before the subtle desires. When this nectar of emanation is oblated in the fire of consciousness, this becomes the oblation of total group of six paths. Because Kauliki Shakti is the emanation of Anuttara Natha, there is here movement from Ka, Ta, Ha, and this is power is a process of properties of that. All properties are there in these same seeds. This is Purishita, when stays with Purishwari. Para is Vishlesha of Visarga, emanation. That which is spread out in that is called the world. Thus one should contemplate, worship and make oblation of Samjivani Kava in the form of Vidya knowledge, Prana Veta force, Deha property of body, and internal and external substance. The yogina attains the restful state of emanated tranquility by staying in the throbbing concentration of Ananda Nadi, falls on pedestal vagina. A scholar yogina enters into the heart after the power shaking, entry of kua, expansion of all nerves in consonant area and wide contraction. There arises ecstasy of emanation as the state of Agnis, Oma, by the mutual friction of Soma Surya Kavaja, artistic net of bliss and sun, fire rise by the collision of bliss and sun. The name of this fire is Shuchi. Now let us stop this mystic story. This yogina krida is by nature secret. a scholarly wise person get overwhelmed by taking rest here. The yogina who is fixed, ignoring fellow laws and exposition gain, sees the world as undivided and identical by the miracle of Chaitanya, Supreme Consciousness. One should attain the state of Nada, Supreme Sound, fully culminated by the abundance of complete nature of external and internal subject, rejecting the pettiness of desired Kriya, doing motivated works. The yogina develops the inner phase of the Supreme Consciousness by dint of that start of absolute sound, unstuck sound, Nada Dasha, so that the Samvit sense and the circle of vital force become non-different to the knowable. That knowable disappears by the fire of Supreme Consciousness, and that dissolved knowable dissolves into the fire of the triangular power. When this happens, the yogina having rest in the destructive seed by the sense of free will, due to the generosity of Supreme Consciousness, Vindusata, becomes Paramaya, one who is unified with the otherness. Samvit Panda, which is beautiful inside and outside, but its normal and natural forms, is a less tired of rest, full of the three powers and contraction and expansion. This appears so that it is understood as that even if it is devoid of contraction and expansion, whose goal is inside and sight is outside, realize the absolute state by the yogina of Shankari Mudra. For this reason, the awareness Vimarsha of Nirmaya and Vichitra Artha Kriya is especially known as Panda and also named Unmukha. One should take rest in the vitality, virya, present in mantra mandava, because perfections of accomplishment of peace emerge with the harmony of that form. The reading of sacred hymns which emancipates with contemplation. There exist grand sense groups which are named as the Bodha of Swatantra, that assimilates this world as its own without being closed, whose all tendencies are dissolved by his great courage. He rests attaining perfection with the group of lights within. He who thinks nothing and is clairvoyant attains supreme consciousness, who sparks in the only cause of fire can destroy the world. The same is told by Parameshvara in the Agama named Krishna Bhairava. Listen, O deity, I will describe about entering into the state of sacred hymns, mantra. The state to visit which is fulfilled by the Dvadashantapada goes through Vijnana Bhairava, which is to be approached upwardly by Sushumna, is called entering into the state of mantra. The characteristic to attain its religion form is called Pranatakoti. The yogina enters into the Pura of Krama by realizing the light which gives expression of ever-emerging self-knowledge, with the help of avidity of mantra in Sushumna, by controlling the downward flower and ignoring the upward growth. The treaty is a Ka Shivatmika, devoid of ways by doubling of 4 and 6 and again by its doubling 8 and 16 and 12 and 24 is full of 6 grand cycle. By resting in these cycles, the yogina must contemplate over Ka. Then he should enter into the present Ka through the present Ka. Again, by detaching himself from both Kas, fixing on Ka, he must utter Ka. And again, by adopting Ka, he should enter in Ka. Thus, the illusion of Chit fixed in the state. Yogina should contemplate over the innermost state of feeling by restraining the movement of Bhava and Abhava. One who witnesses the abstraction of Bhava and Abhava in the state Bhava becomes indifferent to Bhavas. All these three forces full of and devoid of Atma, Anu, Kuamua, Shakti, Bhuti, Chaitanya, Rati, Drishti and Drishya are called Kha, of the characteristic of 10 types of utterance. By enlightenment of the self, Dhamma or ultimate state in the state of atom, emerged from the womb of free will. One should attain even the final state of Turyatita, supreme bliss, by the activity of waterfalls situated in the midst of the base of birth. For this one should deliver the power of knowledge by the movement of the power of action. After that one should take rest or use the power of will of innate Hamanta. That Bheda should be done from middle which comes out of Bheda and Abheda, the means of Bheda. Thus, what is said by Maheshwaranatha, who rests in my heart, that has been explained by me, and there is Anava Praveshasya Upaya. In Shri Brahmayama, Shriman Rava is said in 10 ways form that which is gross, subtle, transcendental, heart-throat and palate, and wider in every respect, gives the state of Vibhutva. The great yogina whose central of Vibhava transmits by staying in a graceful body and attains the transcendental expansion. He must practice all that daily until the power of Vimarsha Ravini dissolves from Rava into Arava. In this means one attains bliss before the touch of perfection, who is desirous to enter into the absolute past by the practice of contemplation and physical discipline. After that gives a rise to the body like stroke of lightning, devoid of knowledge, clearly entered and assimilated at once into the high principle, Paratattva. This supreme consciousness out of practice is water of dust, and the unity of body gives a sense of trembling to the yogina by its force after the cessation of that and out of being sluggish with body. Then only the yogina experiences sleepily until he fixes himself in the supreme consciousness by being introvert after cessation of unity between body and soul. After that the yogina fixes upon the state of trance, walks around as he feels supreme consciousness in the form of walk. Because this walking, the rotation of abstract by a fixed mind, is said absolutely expanded by itself. When one develops pride as non-self in self, it binds in soul, body, and when it dissolves, it is liberation. Initially, non-self merges into self and attains its essential nature, and then the absolute expansion takes place when the knowledge above self as non-self sheds away. That is why the explanation about bliss, initiation, trembling, sleep, and relation in Malini Vijaya Taratantra. When the yogina enters into this fever bliss, said as above, he suddenly attains different chakrashva states. As being attained the expansion of the sense of present everywhere, the body still can be able to do anything at a place. As a cognition of forms by the eye, similarly only one benefit he gets after entering anywhere in the circle of will. Another chakra in the will of bliss is triangular. Fire is there and Asta is an angle. Vaishali is a triangle is actually the mouth of yogini. Kanda is known as Udbhava. Kampa is the heart and palate, and sleep and rotation are there in the Urva Kundali. As this is clearly stated in the tissue of Bhairava, thus the absolute heart of the state of rest of utterance stated above, which unites man, Shiva and Shakti, that is unexpressed linga. Since this world rests in that and is known as dwells in that, this is a characteristic of Purna Shakti Bhairava Samvid. The cause existed in body when in images that takes place in exhaustion full of Adinatha and Adinatha, having the feeling of supreme joy. That expressing and unexpressed is a linga. As this is a parapara, so is full of mantra and virya, hymn and vital force. This is full of emergence by man and Shakti power, so it is different from the form of Shiva. That is expressed linga which gives less place to Shiva, Ahanta Samavesha. Full of divergence, and it is a form of special spanda, that is state of consciousness. The expressed gives fruits and regenerate. which express it and express it and gets fruits, regeneration and liberation, is strengthened by the first two, and this does not take shape in the context of Anuttara. Then expressed element named soul gleams equally and expressed and expressed within the yogina by dissolving the world of man. And again, for the reason of that expressed and expressed, that which dissolves the world and expected. So this Atmalinga rests in the unexpressed, which is full of essential nature of Shiva Shakti Anand. But this discussion is unrelated to the state of Anuttara. This arrangement of same spandana is in three ways. One should always stay with worship and rest in this linga. The Yogini Hridaya is beautiful with the linga breeze. This produces indescribable supreme consciousness by the unification of seed and yoni. Since this is effortless, our deities stay in the state Hama of supreme consciousness. Here also stays the wonderful power Shakti of Bhairava, full of contraction and expansion. The symbol purifies and rejuvenates itself constantly by the assimilation of the stream of bliss emitted from Linga as united with the Sarga. Here the message described for the discussion goes with the contrast of Anuttara in sameness. Does the sun not shine if the candles are lighted? The yogina involves with mind in matter and its process of enjoyment of its result and as joy and sorrow, in spite of being doubtless and detachment, experience the pleasure of decay of nature unworldly. One should choose the principle or that which is devoid of difference vividly, even attains the grand glare of self full of consciousness. The help coming out from within the cave and so the presence of the sense group compelled to exhibit and the presence of pleasure in which the yogina stays by experiencing by full bright potentiality. Thus the process of utterance is explained. Now the analysis of karana is being explained. The karana is described by the Lord in scripture Trishura Bhairava. In this way there are 7 kinds of karana: Grahya, Grahaka, Chit, Vyapti, Tyaga, Akshepa, and Nivesha. This karana is exercised with consciousness of thought. To say this unworldly after total expansion is actually karana. So karana is both knowing through the mouth of spiritual teacher Guru, clearly, yet it will be explained further for the sake of Agama's protection. That which is said as utterance, as in which is the sound as an imitation of unexpressed, dwells gleamingly, is known as Varna. Scholars should consider the seed of creation and withdraw as its essential form. By its regular exercise, the yogina attains the pure state of consciousness. By the utterance and remembrance of the letters Ka to Sa, without sound or with sound, the supreme consciousness arises. The sound like both which expect the indication of outward form and meaning, these two contemplate over meaning like the mutual kingdom in the soul. So the Lord has told Bhairava is eminent in all. So by constant utterance of the word Bhairava, the yogina becomes Shiva. This is also said before Mantradhara in Trishura Bhairava. Memory is a remembrance. This is the primal state, a priori of all motion. This is actually the essential form of separate syllable mantra. This is the equalizer which harmonizes the essential nature of every experienced matter. Memory is a parent of its present form. It gleams from all matters in various forms, exists everywhere. It is the outcome of its own nature. For the sake of grace, it is supreme consciousness. Therefore knows it as it dwells in expression. It is said as a Parashakti, transcendental existence. What to say about the glory of those things like seed or matter, which don't depend on time, this correspondent of Samvit? Can this not be the means of attaining Samvit, the supreme consciousness? Thus culminates a fulfillment of Bija Pinda in the devote of Vachya, in the state of Samvit Spanda, in the stage of Sphara, and in the ecstasy of vital force and restraint. First sensibility of first supreme consciousness concerning to Shukwa, Chitkara, Sat, Samyak and Samya is a touch of Anutara Samvit. In the Krama state of the heart, vocals, heart and lips, and the utterance with the developed trace is actually different from 14th Amrita Varna. After that, the yogina who is active in contemplating recitation is a higher aspect of emanation. Unite both Dvadashanta ways with the heart. One should make gleam of Spanda Bija within middle Nadi, which is the embodiment of Kanda, Hrida, Kantha, Tarvarga, and bliss to the process. The seat of destruction, Samhara Bija, exists in heart. The growth of Pha is the lip side. Tidrasa dwells in its Ramutha. Rest in palate of vocal cord and Bindu rest in the high state, Urvapada. Thus with the provision the yogins who is involved in reciting the Varna's sacred syllables just enter into the state of Anutara. The word Varna also indicates Niva as it's taught in Dikshatara text. The yogina remembers the destruction associated with the Rudra Bindu, Fandri and Marut, Aya in the heart, and attains his goal within 7 days. The lotus of heart glows as gleaming fire concerning to the lamp deep of seed, depicted as the Varnas like Niva, Pita, Rakta. The glaring Bindu as a lamp shine as sun without cloud. One pointed yogina unites with the Shiva bar, this self-luminous soul as a copper processed by mercury transforms into gold. That is Upakshana. It should be utilized in every hymn. Each group of one out of wow which is physical transforms into non-physical by the access of supreme consciousness. Hence the joyful yogina fixes himself in the supreme consciousness which is devoid of veil, free from veil and status. The face of supreme consciousness is the same in Niva, blue, Pita, yellow, Shuka, pleasure, and Dukkha, pain, as it's told by the spiritual teacher. That's why there exists divergence in the means. So the seconds of the processing of means are being showed in terms of utterance, karana, contemplation and syllables for attainment of Anuttara Dhamma. In comparison, Sambhavapaya is stronger than contemplation. Shiktapaya is stronger than Anavapaya. Anavapaya is stronger than utterance. Utterance is stronger than Dhyana Kalpana. So one should follow the external sequence. As a man is impotent without semen, which gives him base to manhood, or he possesses at least some power, so the notion of our difference is this lies a dead body. Hence, the external way which is named Anuttarapaya is Anavapaya is clearly explained. Chapter 6. Now the external means clearly named as the Sthana Prakalpana is being explained. There are said to be 3 kinds of Sthana Bheda, space divergence, in the vital force in the body and outside. There are 5 kinds of vital force. There are 2 kinds of body, external and internal. There are 11 external bodies, Mandala, Skandila, Patra, Akshamala, Pustaka, Linga, Tura, Pata, Pusta, Pratima and Murti. Again, it extends in many. The provision of which the vital force is the base is being taught. So this course consists of 6 types, as this is too wide would be taught. That is settled in the place of vital force. The diagram of course is designed in the forms of Krama and Akrama. This Krama and Akrama are clearly in its pictorial vision. One should understand matters in the same breeze. The eternal time cow glimpse in the supreme consciousness with the form of Krama and Akrama. This Parashakti, this transcendental power, is known as Kali. This same supreme consciousness rests in the form of Pranavritti by manifesting outside the range the Karma and Akrama. Each I like to hear. That which is the only pure supreme consciousness with the absolute nature of light reflects as void sky by separating himself from the void. The same is said to be the void form of the supreme consciousness. That is the transcendental state of the universe with the kind of contemplation. Know that this is not. The same Shunya Pramata, the experience of void, tends towards assimilation. The falling vital force separated from the void with a momentum because Spanda Urmi, the vibrant pulsation. So it is said that the supreme consciousness first transforms into vital force. Also, Agama says that air becomes a part of the principle of inner mind. The Pranana Shakti vital force, which is desirous for inner vibration, is said as a universal pulsation through the uncondensed pulse, Sphurata, individual soul, heat, and the ever-creative activity of the consciousness. The vital nature, Pranavritti, assimilates the body with the form of 5 life breaths, and by which this body as a supreme consciousness reflects fully. Fools consider that there exists no other because they see the thought out of body, along with the supreme consciousness which is the outcome of the unity with the vital nature. The clairvoyants who consider this kind of intellect at witness pramana which dwells in the knowledgeable persons like child, fool, and woman are charvakas. If this kind of contemplation strengthens constantly after the death of body, it will remain dormant till the end of that kind of lust. After the decay of that particular lust, other desires that have yet not been blinked even give amazing result by unfolding it. Thus not religious lust is said to be more sinful than the other vicious thought, for not giving doubt to firmness, for the primitive lust demands, as it is for the repentance or of not doing anything for it due to other duties when weakened, and for the avoid of man's duty to other firm souls. Now by finishing the unexplained, going to analyze the explained the rest. This is settled in all wit of course, and it is divided into 2 ways, Kriya and Murti, action and idol. Vital force is Shikha. The limited power of Bhairava is known as Shikha or Kriya Shakti. It is called Badha in Trishira Bhairava. It becomes Shivarupini when it is Nishkala at the time of Yaga, because there are 14 kinds of movements in the midst of day and night. So it refers wonderful result, for it consists of vital divergence as Randhra, Chidra, Nava, Shata. When 9 move, second step of vital force, Apana, and absolute sound, Nada, the abstract sound, first movement of Shiva Shakti stay at one place, and the sun of the vital force Prana does not rise. There remains such dusk, which is the morning dusk, the half portion of Tutu, when the sun is upward and moon is downward, as the fire is between these two, this appears the midday dusk Sankhya leads towards liberation. Because at the time the full sun, not waking, which is concerned with the group of animals, dwells in the midst of sky, while the compact mass of Shakti Bindu, vital force, day and sun stay at one place, it becomes Mahasankhya, great dusk, full of tranquility. Thus where the Shikha is tied, gives its concerned results there. So this complete chaos rests in the Supreme Consciousness. The act of reflection is the form of ideal, and action is the path of great Lord. When the inactive and abstractive Supreme Consciousness culminates the path of course, is the cause of gaining respectively the destination for the beliefs of duality. It appears as enjoyment, and for the wise it is graceful, so it is called cause. Because there happens discussion everywhere about word and its meaning, they say in Nishchara there are 3 kinds of samjna. Naimitiki, Prasidha and Paribhas. The first is superman, less the remaining two should be assimilated in this. Thus the word Atva is etymologically structured. If any word is not explained etymologically anywhere, it should be understood by one intellect. How much it should be explained in the word? The experience of action in that is called Kava Atman. There are three Atvas in this clearly as Varna, Mantra and Pada. The portion of experience of vital is called Dishatva. There exist three Atvanas of principle in this as Kava, Tattva and Bhuvana. Since each is having subtle growth and transcendental body in both spheres, and so all Atva is said to be of six types. Out of the six Atvas, the first three are Kava Atman, clearly existed in the vital force, Prana. This Kava is said to be different from the Kava is the Kriya Shakti, power of action, of the Lord which manifests the world, and the final cause of principle is body. Therefore this Ishvara principle is said as the body of Shiva, because this is harmony of the active world of Shiva. That which is said as the Ishvara Upata, the force of Ishvara, in the Lord is said as Kava principle in Maya Pramata. The entire body of Shiva from Shiva principle or to Shuddha Vidya principle turns into a coming of man from Maya to Raya. Because the independent Shiva is said as Maya, Sada Shiva is said as Kava and Vidya, Ishvara as Kava and Niyati, and Shuddha Vidya as Raga. Independent Shiva is Shunya Pramata and Sada Shiva is Pramata. Ishvara is Pramata Pramata and Shuddha Vidya is Deha Pramata. Independence is the Shunyata, the voidness. Knowledge is intelligence or intelligence-hood, Buddhita. Vital force is a worldhood, and body is uniformity of object. Thereby we are thinking about the description of world, how it existed in the way of vital force, Pranapadha. Let the gentle aspirant concentrate on this. So the vital force dwells in this body everywhere up to Dvadashanta, yet it is not blooming in the form. The force is of two types, in the form of light and in the form of view. It again consists of two forms, communicable and non-communicable, Samvedya and Asamvedya. Thus it gives again two differences, gleaming and non-gleaming. The beautiful vital force prana moves with the Kanda, which is the fourth form of Spanda known as Samvedya, Svachanda Shastra. The system of nerves is illustrated with the basis of Kanda for the basis of air. The two, this four does not exist in the form of Samvedya. This causes the faculty of Pranachara with heart, where the fourth is Vedya is object. There are powers of Shiva as Vama Jyeshka and Raudri soul and vital force do fourth as Pandana, throbbed with the help of one of these powers. Somewhere the power of this Lord is impotent, for the example as the air of limbs blows. Somewhere self-power is impotent, for example in the contraction of Kanda and throb. Somewhere the power of vital force impotent, for example in the heartbeat. There three or two powers are vital for yogis and all meditative people. The vital force, soul and power have the constant feeling regarding impotency by the presence of attention, adhisthana, bhavata and inspiration. Vama, the mother of worldly beings, the power of Lord, settles the wise man's effort of sentient beings. Jyeshka settles the wise man's efforts, and Raudi settles the efforts of the desires to be wise. Because Vama manifests this world, the third acrostic letter of this world Bhairava. Jyeshka is full of Shivaness. Shivamaya and Raudri is the bestower gives an end of suffering, block and action. Without knowing the principle of creation, neither can one be liberated nor make one to liberate. Yoginas who do not know the creation, maintenance, and withdrawal from creation are not liberated, for they are attached with the last of bondage, which is ignorance. This said is Shri Yogeshvara, that salvation happens after knowing this principle. These are in the control of Kava, this means creation. No doubt, as its power is directly related to vital force prana. Hence is said to be clear utterance. In all beings there exists pranachara, activity of vital force, of 36 fingers measurement in mass from the heart of Shakta Dvedashanta, starts from one's own fingers respectively. The 60 same in the smaller or bigger bodies, so Virya, Oja, Bhava, Spanda, or Pranachara are the same. The passage of vital force with the 36 fingers, there exists a clear way to go out and come into flow, Nanika Tirthi, Masha Vasha, and its globe. This is known as a one-tuti, when the incoming breeze takes time in the passage or as the width of 2 fingers. It multiplies into 36 breaths and 72 widths of fingers is equal to 1 chakra. The canal of incoming and outgoing breeze is known as Acharya. 9 fingers of 4 tutis are equal to 1 prahara. 4 praharas are equal to 1 day and 4 praharas are equal to 1 night. 2 das both equal to 1 night. 2 das both equal to tutis. Ketu is absorbed in sun and Rahu is in moon. The parts of the day like Bhavahana rise in the moon. Other planets appear in the midst. In the 8 praharas, one should attain the accomplishment of some extent salvation, abhichara, nominal, phenomenal, extreme, extent, and extreme intimate. In the mid-noon and midnight, the Abhijit star bestows salvation and enjoyment. Hence other stars arise from the midst, then arise respectively from Naga, Lokesha, Mutisha, Ganesha, water to creative principle, Nayaka, Abhinavagupta, of knowledge principle, Sakava, the 8 gross and subtle inner expansion related vocal cords, lips powers of Lord, Bhairava, Vamesha, Viranayaka in these 8 praharas. No doubt, doing prayer tasks in the day and delicate works in the night is the best. This has been illustrated the cruelty and delicacy of Abhisankhya. On the decay of day and night, salvation takes place, and that expansion expands due to the mutation and unity, and this is have been said by the Lord in Viravarikuva. This is known as initiation by the help of extended meditation, and unite when black and white, capital and small, religion and non-religion, day and night form decay. Acharya explained it in the context of pranachara. Now Master is being said. Day is black face and night is a white face. One should know about action previously. One of pre-explained 16 days restfully takes place in the hub of both duties east and west. The rest days are 15. There exists Vibha division of day-night, fingers of date. Because of light and restfulness, there are day and night. The Supreme Consciousness is ever luminous and blissful, so the days and nights appears according to its imagined light and bliss. Kalpa or Nimesha appears according to the moment gleaming with the Supreme Consciousness. Manifestation of Supreme Consciousness in context to the knowledge of object is similar with the absence of light in context to the knower. To involve fully of an object outwardly or inwardly, or living both, the day arises and the night arises when one fixes in the knower. The knower finds rest in the object, and the knower is this whose state is introvert. For the thinker is, and then the existence becomes his essential nature. Viditrita is a quaking Jagrata, old veteran state is a dream. Transcendental state is a deep sleep, and on the decline of night and day, this is without a second Turiya bliss. Sometimes recapitulation takes place in the soul by the harmony of object restness. This is the harmony of object objectivity, and that is too is the harmony of night and day. Most restfulness in the object is only for the longevity of day. If it is short, one finds the rest in the soul. If it is contrary, it goes opposite. Object restfulness appears as partly when the curiosity of soul gets enlightened. Similarly, one should explain the order of being minimum or maximum of day and night in our bodies is same, so they occur some in the context of Puranas. That's why this has not been explained in detail. Shri Shambhunath's son in the white sky of Triambaka tradition thus told me the Krama of day and night. Dividing day and night on the basis of division of enlightened and unenlightened state from Shri Santana Guru Hat is not relevant, because the place of state was on the side of inner bliss, is the same enlightened place. How can this be considered as day? This is enough. This is not my repulsion against the ancient way. On the contrary, after showing the mediocre way, the disciple becomes the sole perceiver of the way of truth. The moon gives up each phase by blessing itself and every day by attaining wider force and explaining black phase. The 15th stuti near the Dvadashanta is Amavasya. Here this decaying moon enters into the sun of wider force. Let us say it in Kamika Tantra that Maya, which is the essential nature of Shiva, Parashivarupini Prakrita Svarupa, flowers by dividing itself into two parts. It fulfills and assimilates the body as moon and sun. The deities drinks 15 cows from the two as moon and 16 cows. The remaining 16 cows, which is named as Amavasya, satisfies the world. The other 15 phase cows of moon to go decay respectively. The 16th phase Shadashakawa Amrita never declines, which is inviting for it relates with water form. In that the half tuti or the 15th tuti of the king moon is said as Paksha Sandhim. The first half of Amavasya from the Vishrama Tutya Artha and second half of Patipada is regarded as Sandhim. The first half of two halves of Tuti is Amavasya, and the second half is Pratipada. One should know as the solar eclipse entering into the mix of both for the reason of Titcheda. The fall of moon Rahu drinks the nectar which is secreted from moon when it gets heat by involving in the sun filled in that state. Sun is Pramana, moon is Prameya. Both as a form of knowledge and action. Rahu is Maya Pramata, efficient enough to cloud both. This is why incapable to make harmony form of darkness. While on the collision of both emerges bliss of two. The main knower is Vivapakah. For the collision of sun, moon and Rahu, knowledge, object and knower become one. So the period of Mahagraha is a sacred and good period. As this collision takes place even without Amavasya, it is Mahagrahana. As when sun is at Mesha, moon sun, and at the same time in the day of Ashwini, when Rahu is at Ashwini star, then also it is Mahagrahana. When the half part of Amavasya merges into the half part of Pratipada and Pratipada is purified, salvation takes place by moving away from moon. In the period of eclipse and salvation, bears contemplation, offering and chanting results in mundane, heavenly supernature and numerous gifts. Yogina, entering into the decline of agitation of eclipse and eclipsehood of moon and sun. If worship and contemplates even for a moment attains salvation. The loss of deity is a state to be na or kasha. The growth of deity is known as nikshvasana and khana. All this take place effortlessly and rodhana. Hence, when the vital force enters into the heart, the sun of consciousness fulfills the moon of nectar with a bodha, shuka, respectively. The 15 tutis full of beauty and nectar of moon which grows to be full respectively, are the 15 days of wild face, shukla paksha. In the last Tuti moon is full as usual, for the reason of early anti-moon eclipse take place in Pratipad Sankhya. Yoginas get worldly great fruits if they do spiritual function in the spirit or eclipse. Rest of things are same as usual. That is months. Now we explain it here in Pranachara. Sun prays 6 months as Makha by staying in Makara from heart with 36 figures, and that is called Uttarayana. After passing the Shri, Samkranti, Makara, Kumbha and Meena, when the sun attains measure by liberating itself with 18 fingers, it turns into a Vishwavat supramundane auspicious spirit. This is Vishwavat when the sun enters Tuva. This gives worldly fruit, so it moves towards Dakshinayana. Pregnancy, Ubhushi state, Ubhavash state, Ubhava's beginning, Udavabhivashyata, both existing power, maturity, enhancement, decay and decline. This is a Makara respectively. Therefore here action gives same fruit. In the supramundane action, Makara and Kumbha are homely. Before him, Meena, 4 star are homely in interaction. Growth of this is more close and beneficial. At the same time, often worldly actions take place like peace, fulfillment in the same star, and this gives fruits to a long period of life. The implicit day in the exaltation of vital force and in decline in contrast in opposite state. As this year there exist 5 days, this is Krama. Acharya is the Vidya even in that, rest is as usual. In this vital year there exist 12 Rudras, are to be described further in Kartika from Daksha to Pitamaha. It is said there is a rising of year in the vital force. Now the rising of 12 years is to be said. There exist 60 days respectively in each fingers. The Charitra are said to be 12 in the rising of 12 years. Mantra rise in Chaitra, and that is the rise from Palate, and if now the rising of Chaitra is in heart, is being described, naturally mantra sacred hymns are to rise from there. There exists 1 year in which 1 finger and 60 years in prana vital force, by imagining 300 days in each finger with 5th portion. In this pranachara they say that there exists a haratra to 60 years which is 21,600 vibhagas. Time, day, night, month, season, year and dusk ended in 60 years, and are considered as beneficial in contemplation and worship. Thus, the external form is being explained of Vishwatma, exists within body full of time, kala, and power arising of vital force. 6 vital force are equal to 1 chakra. It's 60 equals to 1 nerve, this nerve equal to 1 date, and that 30 equal to 1 masha. They 12 equal to 1 year. According to Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, 1 year is 1 day and 1 night of the ancestors. According to the measurement of ancestor is called 1 auspicious year. In that exists 360 years of human beings. By dividing that by 12 we get the number of months. That one part, when is divided by 30 should be total, while dividing by 20,600. The rising of year depends on that vital number divided by 60. That is said in Raurava by the teachers that 1 haratra of these male deities is 1 year of human beings. The 360 years of human are 1 divine year. This concept is also mentioned in Swachhanda Tantra. That is 1 day and night of the ancestor, such as is Aharatra of the deities, is to be concluded here. The 2 verses of Swachhanda Tantra are necessarily elusive. That 1 year of ancestors teaches is 1 day of the male deities. The divine 12,000 years are distributed in earth by the laws of each one, and starting with 4. There are 8 Sankhas in the same 100. 71 Chaturyuga equal to 1 Manvantara. Brahma's one day equals with 14 Manvantaras. In that exist 14 Indras respectively. At the end of the day of Brahma, Kavagni burns all 3 worlds by its own large Yajna flame and fulfills the other 3 worlds with the smoke. Since the first appearance of Kavagni is out of hell, so there are 2 girls who stay downwards, for they are Vibhu. They are concept of Raurava Agman. When the ashes are thrown by the exaltation of Brahmani, the world assimilated with the water of vapor stays in arriving time of night. In the period of night, all creatures in the earth soul live in the form of Prakyavali, in the human world, being penetrated by the force of fire in the subtle bodies. They play in the great world like Kushmanda Khataka. After passing the night, Brahma raised Tamasic dark period again, and the end of his 100 years that happens death of this Brahma the creator, this one day of Vishnu the preserver, and 100 rulers destroyed, diminished at the end of the age each 100 years by the absence of these eggs respectively. Similar from water to an expressive principle, there are vibhaga of days and nights by the 100 measurements of the 100 years of each age respectively. 1 day of rulers is equal to 36,000 dissolution of Brahman, and time of creation present in expressive and same nights in numbers. At that time only Lord God Shikanka is just destroyed. Then all rulers stay with Shikanka in the root nature called Avyakta, unmanifested. These rudras are able to stay in the worms from Brahma to Maya. Brahma, who ends the downward activities of intellect, does not become the enjoyer. After being knowledgeable, he attains the state of Shiva by renouncing the right. That is his Avantara Laya, when it ceases creation and takes place. According to Sankhya Veda, Lord Shikanka creates again the liberated soul from the beginning of the day. Therefore, this kind of liberation is not right liberation. The 100 years, which is made up of the days and nights of man principle, is the age of Shikanka, and this is of 1 day for those who live in covering. These coverings are Niyati, Kava, Raga, Vidya and Kava respectively, and these are lost in one another. They are equal to 1 day of Gahanesha. On the decay of the day, the world assimilates in Maya. Gahanesha creates again when the same long night fades away. Thus when we multiply the unexpressed time by 10 parts, we get the same long day and night of Maya. Thus is Pralaya. The time of Maya, when it is multiplied by 100 parts, becomes 1 day of God. The night that dwells in it as vital force creates the world. The vital force rests in the same long godly night. The world existing in the womb of vital force gets rest when the vital force prana in the Brahmaranga through Sushumna culminates in tranquility. Then only Shuddha Vidya remains. There happens subtle and subtle Laya in the form of Shamshin. When the period of Ishvara is multiplied by 100 paratra, it turns into 1 day of Sadashiva. That is Mahapralaya. Sadashiva at the end of his period becomes absorbed in the Nada with Charachara by terrifying Bindu, Arhachandra and Rothini. Nada too gets absorbed in the principle of power, Shakti Tattva, when its spirit goes decay and it by tendency of Nadanta penetrates Brahman Piva. One should understand day and night in the Shakti Tattva. Shakti again gets absorbed in Vyapini when its time goes decay. With Vyapini its day and night also go absorbed. She assimilates in independent Shiva too. The time of Shakti, when multiplied by Paratha Koti, turns one day and one night of independent Shiva. When this time is multiplied by Paratha, there exists a state of Samana, called Samya, in which Shiva gets absorbed. That period is named Samya, eternal, and having the form Om Kalahina Kalishakti, devoid of aspect, power of aspect. That which is the form of Samana is Samya, and Brahma expanded throughout all the world. Therefore, through the start and dissolution of both process, the same trace from Tuti to Paratha present in it. Thus one should say Dashas, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 lakhs, 10 lakhs, crore. That means like from 1 to which multiplied by 10 respectively the state of 18 phase from 1 to Praratha. This four established in Prithvi Mula nature, Naisha Maya and Shakti power are the main pralaya and Srishti dissolution and creation. And aspects of this are the four seeds as eggs. In the part of Is, Kavagni is destroyer. In the part of Maya, Kavatattva is a rat. In the part of root nature, Shikanka is a doer of creation and destruction. Shimana Gora is the creator and destroyer of the part of powers, Shaktanda, who maintains the creation and destruction of the harmony among as, nature and Maya. Because in the creation of that power, numerous creation and destruction of the world are involved. So the creation of power is regarded as a great creation. At the same time of dissolution of this Brahma, Vishnu and 140 Rudras get the harmony in the past with the end of Maya mutually, and they attain the state of Absolute. When Maya principle get harmony, they who stay in the pure path, Shuddha Attva, beyond Maya, get harmony with the Absolute. Even that it harmonized people consider as divergence. Hence, when the group of Tantralokah absorbed in the Paratma, again the aspirant on creation attains as an individual soul the state of Shiva. Brahma is the name of power of the Lord, drops his power, turns into Brahman. In the same order by dint of the power of Vaishnavi, Vishnu Rudra appear. Why does the power go to others by living Shaktimana? That is not so. The own power Shakti of one Shiva disappears somewhere and appears somewhere else. Thus creation and dissolution are established in the same vital force. That force is established in the Supreme Consciousness, and Supreme Consciousness is established in the pure consciousness, devoid of knowable. That Parameshwari deity is Chinmatra herself. That is 38 principle and is Paraparalha too. Therefore this Supreme Consciousness, which is naturally full of stroke, Spandamana, is a Laya, harmony rhythm, and Udaya, creation of vital force. So it is said about the creation of 60 years in the vital force. The practice of the amazing function is established on desire. That is outward power of Kala. That's why its essential nature is not certain. The part of time, Kalamsha, so limited in the self-consciousness of awakening, dream, deep sleep, volition, topic, concentration, in the order of creation and dissolution of the world, reflects widely. Thus Kala peace in the Apana expanded from heart to Modharapla, like it appears in the prana vital force by amazing powers of Kriya. The yogina understands the contraction and expansion of Mahabhidka Shakti, name it Muadhara, and also the creation and dissolution from Brahman to independent Shiva. So this Apanas thus flowers continuously, yet it is difficult to approach, worshipped by the yoginas fully. From Brahmastri and Khat, Kanda, Adinatha, Sankosha, Vikasha, and Dvadashanta, to independent Shiva, all deities are worshipped by the good yoginas. They take body to being worldwide due to the power of the Lord, so this body has reasons as taught in Kamika. In the period of childhood, adolescence, old age, death, rebirth and liberation, there exist 6 living deities as Brahma in the body. At the end of that independence there remains Paradevi, the deity beyond, where the disciple is not guided by his teacher. Simply by knowing this process by dint of the teacher, the yogina becomes the bestower of grace full of initiation. Because by knowing fully all this phase of joy of all this Yadhavaktra destroys completely the dual dark spot. By worshipping there's the pretension of upward downward ruins. One should make arrangement from 20 to the arrival of 60 years in the Prince of Apana, according to previous and glory Bhaga. The same process is in samana that is considered as of 10 forms, most everywhere in the nerves of heart. This samana vital force is existed in balance by fulfilling 10 main nerves, by scaring the dependent nerves or other existing nerves in that. This seems aggressive and polite, by moving around a deep house, following the laws of respective direction. That it existed by moving in 3 main nerves, amount, day, night and mix, which are moon, sun and fire itself. This vital force moves 900 times in 1 hour. This continues to move 24 times by moving in 1 day and night. It does 5 Sankrantis on the day of Mesha Sankranti in the morning, assumption nerves first in left and right in the Sushumna, then in north and south. Can it vibrate 900 times in the 14 nerves minus 1/4. After that in the north of Mediterranean it does 900 Sankranti in each one. After the end of 5 Sankrantis outside the Mediterranean, 900 Prana Sankrantis take place inside as taking place in the outside. Similarly, the vital force vibrates in the night too. It starts from Sama Vishwa day in the growth and decay of day and night. It moves with the Samana and Sankranti too.